Jayne! Cats.
Yeah, that's the downside. We've got 3 of them.
Nice. What a beautiful cat.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
When I got into newspapers, that's when the passion really developed for photography. And I can't say that it was singularly the photography so much as the whole situation. So, you know, it became so exciting to be involved in frontline news. And so the satisfaction of being involved in that, having inside information on what was going on, seeing your picture then in the paper the next day, that became a real driving force.
Real rush.
It's really, yeah. It's something, and something that you never get over. If you've got that, you never get over it.
Oh,
you
wow.
always have it for life.
I haven't looked at these. You sent them.
Okay.
I downloaded them and I haven't looked at them.
Oh, okay.
I just looked at the thumbnail and I said, "Oh, this is going to be good," because
good.
I
So
wanted
you get a
to,
fresh impression.
yeah,
as well.
for sure.
Good idea.
Okay. So, in this photograph, a completely different feeling. It's beautiful black and white. Looks very urban, poor. There's like there's a man holding a baby on his lap. He's holding a bottle of what is probably beer in his hand. He's sitting on a sofa that's outside. It looks like naga hide or not real leather. The paint's peeling off the walls. The door, it looks very gritty and grimy. The floor is just concrete. It's very, very, it's not very soft. Like other than the 2 humans in the image, nothing else is alive. You've got the bottles, you've got the concrete, the wall, door, sofa, the metal grating on the windows. It's very urban. It's very rough. Beautiful face. So the man has this really dark, shock of hair, and the girl has really nice thick hair. She looks probably 2 years old. It looks kind of cool outside. I wouldn't say this is the Philippines. This is kind of like a kind of poverty that is Western, because there's graffiti on the walls that's kind of Western lettering. Beyond that, it's very, what is he holding in his hand? Bottle. Victoria Bitters. So there we go. So what's this photo?
You're right about it being urban poverty, but it's a different type. It's in Australia, it's Sydney.
Oh.
And the problem is, it's a long-term problem that's existed of Aboriginals in urban environments, because there's traditionally lower education, nothing for them to do, poor employment, and doesn't matter what they were doing at the time. It was just it created an environment where a lot of the Aboriginals would sit around and drink. Things have changed now, but this is in the late 80s in Sydney.
Okay.
And there was a famous street called Everleigh Street, and the Aboriginal Housing Association had got some old Victorian houses and had renovated them.
Okay.
And moved families in. But then that was great for a short period of time, but without anything for anyone to do.
Yeah.
It slowly deteriorated and became actually quite derelict.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, it was basically 2 ends of the street, and no one would go into the street except those that lived there or were Aboriginal that, knew people in there.
Okay.
The police wouldn't go down the street.
Oh, wow.
So as things started to deteriorate and, drunken incidents happened, and then they decided, they started destroying their environment. But it's not that simple a deal of just give people a row of houses and expect that solves all the problems.
Sure.
And so they realised that since then. And now any sort of deal to try and help urban Aborigines is far more comprehensive kind of arrangement. But it was an interesting experiment in a sense that didn't work. And they decided that the only way to deal with the past of how detrimental the memory was of Everleigh Street was to raze it to the ground.
Oh, okay.
So the housing, it was owned by the Aboriginal Housing Association, and so they took the move to actually they purchased further streets around it and then built a different environment, but more importantly built
like the infrastructure,
a lot of infrastructure around it.
Huh.
So it's a lot more different, but you know, the education still remains a problem.
Sure.
There's definitely a much higher profile for how to deal with getting the kids educated and keeping an eye on giving them a chance. It's a much more, you know, we're far more advanced in 30 years.
Yeah.
But that was just a dreadful, they really just didn't know what to do.
Right. So professionally, your role and over time, your eye and your aesthetic connection, philosophy, all that stuff is maturing, and you're sent into these different environments, and in a way, I'm trying to imagine what would be like for me, and it's kind of like, okay, you're assigned to go here, so you go there, and as you go, you're forced to learn on the fly.
Yeah.
Like you're forced to kind of.
You're also forced to confront the fact that you would never walk down that street.
Mm-hmm.
You believe everything you hear about the police. That even the police don't go down there.
Right.
And yet you know that this has to be recorded, and so you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And quite sadly, in the 1980s, that so few people went down there, and then a consequence of digitalising everything that was shot in those days of black and white film has meant that there's virtually no pictures of it.
Oh, okay.
So I have 3 pictures that I took of Everleigh Street because I printed them up. So
Right.
I had to digitalise off the print.
Yeah.
And I'd done them as 12/16s for a portfolio. So they came out quite well as a picture.
Mm-hmm.
But the company that I worked for at the time had decided that when they were digitalising all the negs, they would only digitalise negs that from images that had been used in the paper.
Huh.
So basically, virtually everything was thrown away.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's a lesson also in filing your own things and not relying on anyone else to file your own images.
Sure.
It's a different situation now where you're all digital anyway, so
Yeah.
you're always running it through a computer. But in those days when you just got the physical negs and then you're handing those negatives over to the company to store.
Right. Let's get really nerdy. You mostly shoot full frame, equivalent 35 millimeter. Do you have larger format cameras, or that's it?
I did. For years I had a Mamiya RB67, the old manual film cameras.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot of fashion.
Okay.
Not that it wasn't high magazine glossy fashion, but it was more catalogue kind of fashion, but
Sure.
it was for the newspapers.
Yeah.
So more down to earth fashion.
Right.
High street fashion is probably the right way of saying it. But we did spend a lot of money on shooting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do it on the 6.7 to give it a bit of quality. I mean, I went down to Cape Town, for instance, and because you're working for newspapers and not working for magazines, you've got a much shorter lead time. So if you're shooting something for the summer and you go down to Cape Town, you can shoot it and have it in next week's paper.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you went down to Cape Town, we'd shoot 8 different things so you could run it over the next few weeks.
Right.
But it was because we were working for newspapers, it was great because the magazines would, I don't know if you know, but a lot of the European models will head down to Cape Town in the off season because you get the weather. The water is absolutely freezing cold.
Okay.
But you get the sun and, you know, it looks like it's summer.
Okay.
And it's so much cheaper than going to other locations.
Okay.
So you're in the southern hemisphere. And so you get the opposite. So it's winter in Europe, summer down there. You do all the summer catalogues and then the models head back up to Europe for the summer up there again.
Okay.
But they have to do it with such a lead time that at the end of their season down there, they're kind of coming to the end of any of the good magazine jobs.
Right.
And they're sitting around.
Okay.
So the quality of the models that you get towards the end of the season,
okay,
you would never be able to hire them if you were trying to get them in London.
Okay.
For a newspaper. You'd never get them for a newspaper.
Okay.
So it was fabulous. I got some great models and great locations and everything, but all shot on the film and all shot on the RB67.
Fascinating.
But at the time that I was thinking about digital and whether it was possible to afford going for a digital back on that same type of camera, the costs was just so high.
Yeah.
You were talking about £25,000, so that's in the region of 250,000 Hong Kong dollars.
Yeah.
Back then, back in say the year 2000.
Sure. Wow.
So it was just not a choice. I said, if I were doing this every day, then I would invest in how I'd move forward.
Sure.
But I wasn't doing it every day, so we changed to just doing it on 35, everything on 35, which is a shame because in the early days of 35 digital, obviously the quality was appalling.
Yeah.
It was just you look back at the file size and you could have taken a pencil and drawn it better.
Yeah.
It's just, but it was a revolution for newspapers. So,
you mentioned earlier that, do you know Julia Broad?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
So that was really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting. But no, I don't. Never come across her.
It's just a different sector, a different part of town, a different whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But okay, but yeah, quite fascinating.
Cool.
Let's go to the next image. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.